everybody, how's it going? Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I've got a great stream with a great guest that I think you're really going to enjoy. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that after President Trump's historic win, The Blaze would like to extend its best deal it's ever given, a $47 off bargain when it comes to your subscription. If you want to be able to catch all of my shows uncensored, along with all the other Blaze TV hosts, want to be able to read all of the articles over at Blaze Media, where I write some of my best work. You want to catch up with everything that is going on and get insights you're not going to get anywhere else. Make sure you go to blazeelection.com/Auron. That's blazeelection.com/Auron to get $47 off your membership. All right. So the libs spent all of this time telling us that Donald Trump is the worst thing ever. He's Hitler. He is a fascist. He's going to enslave people of color. He's going to lock women into gulags. He's going to eliminate all of his enemies. It's going to be the end of elections as we know it. Democracy is over. He's an existential threat. And now he's elected and they're like, well, I guess he's in charge. That's it. Like that's the reaction we're getting. All of these people, we're the resistance. We have to stop fascism. He's elected, and now they're just going to turn it over. We're going to be going through some of the meltdowns from people like AOC and some of the late night hosts, MSNBC hosts, showing you just the insane hypocrisy and cowardice that these people have. Also, very interestingly, it seems like there's somewhat of an exodus from leftist media and their support in places like YouTube. We'll dive into all that. Joining me today to talk about that is Jay Burden. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Auron. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
How you feeling post the election? You know, did you feel this win coming? The momentum? Were you up late all night? What did you do to celebrate?
So I was coming back from a conference, right, which some of your viewers may have been at, coming back from the West Coast, and so I got back to my home at roughly 9:30, and I was asleep by 10. I will say I did call this. I was very confident Trump was going to win, going back some months. Obviously, you can check my work for the receipts on that. And I will say, so much so that, by the time I went to bed at about 9:30, I was pretty sure. Now, obviously, I did wake up the next morning, and frantically run to my phone to check.
Make so sure that no water pipes burst, no ballots dropped at 3 a.m.
And then, let's be honest, I'm not trying to say I was so cool that I wasn't, a little bit excited to check. But yeah, I'm very pleased to see that. The one thing I was disappointed about, and I say disappointed not because I thought it was a real chance, but for a moment there, it looked like Virginia was going to go for Trump. That didn't end up happening. But you know what? I consider this a win. Basically, the way I have been celebrating is the same way that I guess almost everyone has, which is just observing all of my liberal friends and family members, not saying a thing, just smiling, sitting there and
letting that Schadenfreude just roll over you.
Exactly. Yeah. Letting that sweet, sweet salt just roll in through the timeline. And it's been glorious. I've been enjoying it a great amount.
Yeah, gracious in victory, but certainly a smile plastered from ear to ear, right?
Exactly. Gracious to a point.
Right. All right, guys. Well, we are going to dive into these meltdowns, what the leftists are saying. Why aren't they going out to fight evil Orange Hitler? We'll get into all of that, but before we do, let me tell you a little bit about job stacking. Hey guys, if you're looking to break into the world of fully remote jobs, I want you to listen closely. There's a new job stacking program focused solely on how to land remote jobs, even if you don't have any remote work experience. The new Remote Work Mastery program is designed to get you to successfully implement the strategies that allow you to leverage your current skill set, whatever that happens to be, into a fully remote role. No need to learn any new complicated skills like coding or finance. This is all centered around what you already have experience with. There are a lot more remote job opportunities in today's marketplace that go beyond the typical IT job set. The job stacking team will walk you through the entire process of identifying suitable remote positions that adjust to your experience, optimizing your resume, and acing your job interview so that you're set up for success in the world of remote work. So if landing a remote job is something that you're interested in, go to jobstacking.com/masterremote and schedule a call with Rolf today. All right. Well, let's kick this off with exactly the person you would expect. Good old Andrea Ocasio-Cortez. She's doing really well, as you can see here. Let's listen in to what she had to say in response to Donald Trump's victory.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. We cannot give up. We now find ourselves in a time in history that has precedent, and we find ourselves, I believe, in a time where there are, let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times
Eloquent.
of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad, in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents.
Now, look, obviously the hypocrisy is here, but we're not going to dwell on that. Of course, they don't see what they did to Trump and to people from January 6th and anti-abortion protesters and just surveilling Catholics and all these things. They don't see any of this as a violation of norms. All those people deserved it. They were all evil, fascist, racists. So the left can deploy all of those things to them. But now there might, possibly be, and again, I'm doubtful, but give me the Trump that she fears. That Trump might actually come back and say, "Oh, well, if this is how you treated me, that's how I'm going to treat you." Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not foolish. I understand that every Democrat has called basically every Republican a fascist since World War II. Like, it's just been, every single race, it's, oh, this guy is the return of fascism. George W. Bush was a fascist, and Mitt Romney was a fascist, and John McCain was a fascist. Like, calling your political opponent Hitler isn't exactly new ground. But the reason things felt like they were moving towards a head was that these people literally, created an entire lockdown, created a giant riot that burned down cities in the United States, killed people, created billions and billions of dollars in damage. They threw people in jail. They rigged an election. They tried to throw Trump in jail, get him stripped off the ballot, kill him. Right? Like, so these were not just, oh, he's Hitler, and then like whatever, okay, now George Bush is painting nice stuff and hugging Michelle Obama, so we like him now. Like, this is someone they actively tried to throw in jail and kill, and successfully threw in jail guys like Steve Bannon and Douglas Mackey and like all these other people, in relation to their support of Donald Trump. So these were not empty words when it came to actual political consequences and legal consequences for those that they were aimed at. So this is not just the normal hollow refrain of he's a fascist, he's a fascist, he's a fascist. Now, you would think that if you believed any of this, any of it at all, then if this guy's getting elected and you really think, like if she really believes that Trump is going to turn the military on his opponents and throw her in jail, she's just what? Going to peacefully hand over power to this guy? We're going to resist fascism. How? Crying on camera. That's it. That's all they've got. They're not going to do anything. The left are absolute cowards, complete and total cowards.
Well, it's obviously very performative, right? You've heard the meme running around from people like the distributists that we live in a theater kid occupied government. And that seems to be very true. I think I agree with almost everything she says, except for one thing. They can give up, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for them to lose hope. And there's something about this, right? To see quite literally the lamentations of their women.
Right.
It's sweet, right?
Driven before you. Yeah.
It's pretty great. I'm going to be honest.
speaking of the lamentations of their women, here is here is Jen Rubin's tweet. Now, Jen Rubin is, of course, an absolute lunatic, so you would expect this, but it's 1933. Hitler's in power. No time for a effing seminar on Democrats' messaging errors. So this is what they've kind of walked away with, is we didn't make any mistakes. We didn't say anything wrong. In fact, at one of the sweetest moments, like post-election, I came in from the Blaze stream. It was like 3 a.m. because we had been going so long before basically everyone finally called it and Trump was coming out to do his acceptance speech. I get in and I can't quite fall asleep even though I'm completely exhausted. So I turn on CNN and there is the one Republican on that panel. And he's talking to Van Jones. He's like, I told you guys forever that you were in a bubble, that you weren't listening, that you didn't understand what was going on, that all the indicators pointed to Kamala Harris losing, and you just refuse to believe it. And I think it's time for you guys to think about what you've done, how you've treated people, how you address things. And Van Jones lost his mind. He and the actual host of the segment like double team this guy, or just like, shut up, white dude. We tell you what to do, not the other way around. We didn't do anything wrong. You're all just racist. You're all just fascist. We got everything right. It's the people. They're too easily manipulated. They're too light. And this is the theme across all of it. They learned nothing, right? You would think at this point they would need to dial down their rhetoric, right? If they're going to let Donald Trump enter the White House and they're not going to do anything about it, and that seems to be the case, right? I thought they would chimp. And so far, it looks like they just do not have the energy to chimp. But the rhetoric continues. Like, they are still saying, this guy is Hitler. He's going in the office. He's going to wipe us all out. But we're not going to do anything about it. Like, if you believed any of that, you have to have just the most insane level of cowardice. Like, each one of these people who actually buys into any of this rhetoric is just entirely like the most cowardly human being imaginable. Like, they would let anyone do anything to them, and they can't imagine standing up if they actually believe this. But of course, it's entirely possible that they don't believe it at all, and they're just going to keep pushing this rhetoric, even though it failed entirely. Like, I don't understand how they can possibly self-correct at this point.
Well, this is something that Paul Gottfried wrote about in his kind of pair of books on fascism, right? Mm-hmm. Anti-fascism and then Fascism, the Career of a Concept. And his point is that fascism is a word that actually means something. It means something quite specific. But in modern parlance, it basically just means, I don't like you. And, his point is that, the modern form of the American government really owes pretty much its entire identity to FDR, right? He is the one who set this machine up, and it still bears those fingerprints, right? It still bears those, kind of like fundamental traits of being anti-fascist. And so in our modern world, right, look at Star Wars. What is the Empire? It's basically space fascism, right? Pick your poison, find any kind of bit of popular culture. And so that term is basically, it's secular Satan, right? It means nothing more than you make me feel bad. And so in this case, your point about personal cowardice is exactly right. These people, either they believe it and they're too weak, or they don't believe it and they just want to performatively show how upset they are that Cheeto Hitler's in office.
Right. Like, that's the thing that gets me, is like, okay, you're saying one or two things about yourself. These are the only two conclusions that can possibly be drawn about most of the Democratic commentariat and most of their politicians. Is like, either every one of you is just a completely vicious lying grifter because you didn't believe you used the most incendiary rhetoric trying to drive us towards Radio Rwanda. Literally got 2 people to try to murder the president-elect. Like, that's how vicious your rhetoric was. And you didn't believe a single word of it. And now you're just going to lie to your audience to try to get them to keep giving you money when you clearly don't believe a single word that you said, or you do believe it, and you are just the most cowardly human being alive. You are a despicable piece of scum. You have no principles, no courage. You would literally let anyone do anything to you without lifting a single finger. Like, that is how weak and just completely impotent you are in the face of what you claim to believe is pure evil. And I gotta say, while I'm sure people who are established in the the mechanisms of power higher up probably don't believe half this stuff and are now trying to make their adjustments for Trump. The commentary class, I believe they really believe this. I think they really talk themselves, most of them, into this, which just means they are absolutely the most despicable, weak humans to ever walk the earth. We've got Rachel Maddow's reaction here.
Then the decisive result of this election gives us not just an answer to the question as to what Americans want to do along those lines, it also gives us a really big to-do list as Americans. If you are an American citizen who does not want to ashcan the American system of government, who doesn't want a strongman authoritarian system where the whole government is one guy and everything else just exists to serve him, if that is not the kind of country that you want, then yesterday's election means you have more to do for your country than you have ever done before. Because now is when the rubber really hits the road, right? We don't just flip a switch and the American system of government is gone. Democracy is gone. It doesn't work like that.
You literally told everybody that's how it worked. You spent the entire election lying to your audience and telling them that's exactly how it worked. You said that Donald Trump was an existential threat to democracy, that this is the last election you will ever have. And now your answer is
Vote
more
next time.
democracy?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's absurd, right? And again, it's created this massive kind of gap between stated and revealed preference, right? And this is just this kind of cognitive dissonance is endemic to how humans work, right? Everyone has it. But when you are constantly on stage in front of other people, it becomes very, very obvious, even to, your kind of captive audience, right? The libs, that you're full of it. And I think that, the clip you're about to play of Pac-Man is a perfect example of that, right? That there is a real crisis in this narrative, and it matters beyond the point of just saying, well, we won in the marketplace of ideas. We convinced them. It's not that. It's that at a certain point, you have to have a convincing narrative to sell to people, both as a political movement and as a pundit, right? This is what we would refer to as a ruling formula, a political formula, right? Why am I in charge? Why should you listen to me, to take it different directions? And, at a certain point, if you give someone a bad answer long enough, well, no one will listen to you.
yeah, let's go ahead and jump to that Pac-Man clip. I was going to play it a little later, but it dovetails into exactly what you're talking about here. These people have burned everything. They've burned it all. Like, they have no answers. They've driven the rhetoric to the edge. Now, again, this is the tension between academic agent and I. I still think the idea that the woke is being put away is wrong. We've actually had one of the leaders of the Democratic Party in Texas was just expelled from the party because he said, hey, maybe we should dial down the trans stuff and like focus on getting like people jobs and, healthcare and stuff. They immediately threw him out of the party. So like, I'm not, there are some people trying to counsel, putting the woke away, saying, hey, let's be wise. Let's be thoughtful about this. Let's take action that is more popular and less controversial. Let's not try to push the bleeding edge of every social issue. There are people saying that. There are people, and this is what me and academic agent always agreed on. That would be the smart thing for power to do. But the people who are saying it are getting basically told, shut up, sit down. You don't know what you're doing. We were right. It's the American people who are stupid. And we're going to throw you out of the party if you try to moderate us at all. But it is very clear that this is burning out their audience. And this is what David Pakman, who is an insufferable person, but is a popular left-wing commentator on kind of the alt media, the YouTube sphere of the left, Young Turk style. Let's hear, we're not going to play this whole thing because it's long, but let's play a little bit of this.
When I woke up this morning,
Jump a little bit because it takes a second.
what is it that is going on? Here is a graphic. As you can see, subscribers just go up, 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 and they are down. It is not just YouTube subscribers. We are seeing record cancellations of paid memberships, record cancellations. These are the people that keep the show running. Now, for a moment, I thought, if it's just YouTube, maybe YouTube is purging people who are inactive subscribers. And once a year, usually YouTube does this and you see a little decline and then numbers go back up. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. And if that were the case, we wouldn't be seeing paid membership cancellations on the website. So now I understand what is going on. It's terrifying, but it is happening. A lot of people are checking out. I heard anecdotally from a couple dozen people who said, you know, David, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. I'm checking out. I'm out. And the reason that this is terrifying, not only because it puts everybody in left-wing media's livelihoods at stake and at risk.
What a shame.
It terrifies me because our instinct is the opposite of what the right does, and we will get crushed if this is the way we respond to a defeat. The right wants us not to exist. The right wants to decimate independent progressive media. And so when I lose 5,000 subscribers and Brian loses thousands and Ring of Fire loses thousands and everybody's losing thousands of subscribers, understand that when the right loses, they get organized, they fund, and they create insanely effective organizations like Turning Point USA, investing in the Daily Wire and building out this huge network of right-wing ideas and influencers. So if you're feeling burnt out,
Or
There's a couple amazing things in that video. Go ahead.
I think I need to take a cold shower. This is too much.
You're-
Can we show this on YouTube?
Yeah,
This is lewd. But I mean, honestly, yes, and like, great. I think it's interesting that the liberals are literally telling us they are checking out,
yes.
right? Because really the cycle of really the last 8 years, maybe a little longer than that, has been insane outrage, right? Outrage like nothing we've ever seen. And eventually that burns out, right? That's not an unlimited well. And it's especially not an unlimited well when you had your guy. You did it. You defeated Donald Trump. And not only did everything suck, but the next available chance they had, the American people said, not only do we hate what you're doing, but we hate it in a historic amount, right? He's going to win the popular vote. And I think that a little bit of soul searching is probably warranted.
If they can, right? Like, this is the amazing thing here. I think you're right, of course. Again, you know, we've seen a few people try to say this to the Democrats, but they've immediately said, shut up, you don't know what you're doing. The people are stupid. The people wanted fascism. That's the problem. Like, you know, they have not dialed down their rhetoric at all. The rhetoric has stayed exactly the same. And like you're saying, that there's the diminishing returns, and he doesn't recognize this, right? He is lecturing his audience. He's saying, oh, well, you're just giving up and tuning out. No, it's that you suck. It's that you lied. It's that you're wrong. It's that you have no future. It's that you have no plan. David Pakman and his ilk are pathetic. They are liars. They don't want to do anything that they said they're going to do. They don't believe any of the garbage they were spewing. They do not actually give any kind of accurate political analysis. They screamed, Hitler, Hitler, Hitler. He's coming, fascist. He's going to kill us all. It's the end of the world. It's the end of democracy for years. And now he's got nothing. He's not going to do anything about it. He's not going to take any of his own words seriously, but he wants his audience to know they better keep paying his bills. And if you're not paying his bills, it's because you're the problem. You're not willing to fight fascism by sending me more money. That's literally what he's doing by sitting there and lecturing these people. It's not, hey, I was wrong. I was desperately wrong. My analysis was wrong. My answers were wrong. The level of rhetoric I was using was irresponsible, and I need to think about the way I do this because I owe you, the viewer, the person who listens to me and is trying to take my advice and is paying me for my time and trouble. I have a responsibility to you as a leader. No, none of it. None of it. You're the problem. Don't leave. Don't keep paying my bills. Don't leave on YouTube because don't let there be any consequences to my actions. I also love this absolutely delusional understanding. This is a man who has the same political beliefs as like BlackRock and, Citibank and these people. I mean, he's one of the independent progressives, so he probably wants to be taxed more or something, but he's on board with most of the social stuff, all of this, whatever. He's got all of these political beliefs that line up with power. He's got the power of academia behind him. He's literally got the law enforcement behind him. He's never have to worry about YouTube censoring him, to pulling down his videos, this kind of thing, the way that right wingers do. It's just not a concern at all. But he's like, oh boy, we're in trouble. It's a downward spiral, and the right build amazing organizations when they are down, like Turning Point. Now, don't get me wrong. Turning Point has done some impressive things, especially this election. Credit where it's due to Charlie Kirk. I don't agree with everything they do for sure, but that is organization, that is real and meaningful change being involved there. But the idea that Packman, who is sitting there with the entire media on his side, the entire academia on his side, most of corporate America on his side, the fact that he operates on YouTube without any worry of cancellation says that all by itself. The fact that he's like, I'm jealous of Turning Point USA. The delusion is just insane.
Well, I'll put it this way. There is nothing I hate more in this world than having to edit my own podcasts. Mm-hmm. And because of scum like him, I have to do it, right? I have to have my finger on that censor key. And he has never had to deal with that. He is pushing through an open door. The entire establishment is behind him. There's a reason that every May, when I go to my ATM from my big Fortune 10 banking company, what do they show? Do they show Christ is King? Right? Do they show the papal seal? No, they show the gay pride flag. They show his symbol, right? I mean that in a political sense, although who knows with David Packman. I will also say, I think it will be interesting to see how the liberals basically cope with living in a society where it is not illegal to disagree with them. We've already started to see a little bit of this with Musk, right? And illegal, right? Obviously, it was always technically legal, but I mean, like, could you do it without blowing your entire life up?
Yeah,
and
de facto illegal,
right? What we've seen with Musk is very, very badly. And if that trend continues, and it is interesting to say that we have seen a lot of prominent figures in tech, like Zuckerberg and Bezos, warm to Trump. And so, look, I'm not trying to present an overly rosy vision of the future, but there is a chance that Musk is an early adopter, right? And that the sort of changes to either formalize censorship policies or even informally, right, what the culture deems as quote unquote acceptable, those might be coming. And I could not feel any less sorry for these people when it comes to their own shrinking cultural relevance.
Yeah, for sure. May it continue. Now, this is a beautiful moment. I love this moment. This is a reporter just straight up calling out Karine Jean-Pierre. You and I were talking about this. One of the worst press secretaries of all time. I mean, to be fair, it's a terrible job. You have to get up there and probably just tell lies and assume that you don't know things or act like you don't know things that you obviously know in an attempt to put out a message and spin and these kind of things. So it already kind of like takes a certain person who's willing to step into that role. But the fact that she has just been uniquely terrible and her entire existence seems to be like, well, you should just kind of listen to whatever I say and never question me because I am, of course, a black gay female. And like I have the Holy Trinity. You can worship me if you'd like, but questions are kind of forbidden. Let's hear her reaction to a reporter just calling her out for how dishonest she's been.
This administration message to millions of Americans that they're going to wake up the day after the election if Trump won and have their rights stripped away, that democracy would crumble, and the president said today we're going to be okay. So how do you square that?
I can't square that. I'm going to square that in a way that hopefully makes sense, because I've been answering this question multiple times. The American people made the decision. There was an election 2 nights ago. There was. And it was a free and fair election. And we respect the election process. We do. And Americans spoke. And so the job of the president is to make sure we respect that. The job of the president is to make sure that we have a peaceful transfer of power. That is what the American people deserve. And that's what we're going to, it's not complicated. It's truly as simple as that. As simple as that. The president called the president-elect, invited him to the White House. You know why? Because that's customary. That is customary. That is what you do. If you respect what the American people decided, that's what you do. And that's what the president's going to make sure that the Trump transition has what it needs, which is being led obviously by our chief of staff here. Why? Because the president wants to lead by example. It's not complicated. It really isn't. And you know, that's important.
Here,
is the message to people who are fearful based on what the messaging was about the state?
Well, now you're just twisting everything around, and that's really unfair. No, it is. No, Jackie, it's unfair because.
How dare you use my own words against me, right? Like, I can't believe that you would notice that I continuously called this guy a fascist, that he's going to end democracy. I told everyone to be terrified. I told everyone that there would be blood in the streets and slavery and, all of this stuff. And now we're just going to peacefully transfer power because that's what we do. We believe in the democracy, even though we literally told you he's going to end the democracy. We believe in it. That's what I think it's really all about.
See, Auron, I think you need to sit down and shut up because a black woman is talking.
That's certainly what she told that woman, right?
Well, it's so insulting, right? That your entire job is literally to answer questions. And the tone of every answer is, how dare you answer me a question, right? When quite simply, everyone is just doing their job, right? And look, like I have no great love for any of the Biden press secretaries, but she's done yeoman's work in making Jen Psaki look much, much better at her job.
At least it looked like the elevator went to the top.
Yeah, exactly.
With Jen, she may not have been a good person, but she could do the job. It really is the Hillary Clinton Kamala Harris comparison, right? Like both are evil, but one is clearly just not capable in the slightest. And
right. Say what you will about Hillary, she may be evil, but she is good at being evil.
Right. You get the feeling that this is not the first time she's ever heard the name of like specific countries, these kind of things. But anyway, let's enjoy Jimmy Kimmel crying here a little bit. That's always great.
Let's be honest. It was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth.
Won't somebody think of NATO?
And democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it.
So I guess our democracy isn't that sacred. I don't know. Apparently, like all these people can just vote to destroy the environment, end healthcare, make everyone poor, end free speech, even though we were the ones censoring people, throwing people in jail, whatever. The people can just vote for all this stuff and it's just over. Well, democracy doesn't seem like a great system of government. What do you think here?
Well, much like fascism means whatever we don't like, democracy means whatever we do like. And so you can just substitute those terms for things that make libtards happy and sad. And I mean, look at that list, right? It's an absolute word salad of things he personally cares about. And, there's no specifics as to how Donald Trump will harm any of those people. But he hates Donald Trump, and therefore he must be bad for all of those things. I will also say,
I'm your host.
I don't really care for the late night format. But even among that, he's got to be the worst. And there's something about being lectured by a talentless hack multimillionaire whose entire job is to basically talk into a camera and regurgitate regime talking points for which he is paid wildly beyond what he deserves, to lecture me about that I don't know what's in my own best interest, right? That I need to care more about NATO or I need to care more about Ukraine than I do the country I actually live in. it produces a negative reaction. I think I'll leave it at that.
Well, the best part about Jimmy Kimmel, very specifically, because I think it really is a showdown between him and Stephen Colbert. It's very close. It's hard to know what side I come in on as the worst human being to hold this job ever. But the thing about Jimmy Kimmel is him lecturing people about like my daughters and feminism and the future of women. It's like, dude, you were on the Man Show. Like, you're famous for being a misogynist. The entire last segment of every show was literally women jumping on trampolines, and now you're trying to lecture Donald Trump about like it's just personally amazing. But let's enjoy a little bit of Stephen Colbert here as well.
Stephen Colbert. Well, it happened again. After a bizarre and vicious campaign fueled by a desperate need not to go to jail, Donald Trump has won the 2024 election.
Interesting here that they created their own Caesar figure and they still can't see that, but moving on.
Almost like you rehearsed that. The deep shock and sense of loss is enormous. Okay, but let's look at the bright side. This way, at least there'll be a peaceful transfer of power. Mike Pence, ollie ollie oxen free. All day yesterday, I was walking around proudly wearing my I voted sticker. Today, I wore my I am questioning my fundamental belief in the goodness of humanity sticker. Now, they give those out. They give those out at the bake sale. Right outside. Now, as a late night host, people often say to me, come on, part of you's got to want Trump to win because he gives you so much material to work with. No. No one tells the guy who cleans the bathroom, wow, you must love it when someone has explosive diarrhea. There's so much material for you to work with. Come on. Now,
Hey, Auron, can you pause this?
Yeah.
This is sort of a rephrasing of the Shooter McGavin joke, but is he comparing his own material to excrement? Because that's something I believe, but I don't think he believes that.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's kind of amazing. Also, like, it's just nothing funny about this at all. They give out stickers at the bake sale.
Yeah, this is grim.
It's real bad. But I want to get to the part where he blames America and praises Kamala here.
That good? I wish, you wish, so many of us wish this hadn't happened, but that is not for us to decide. This is a democracy. That's democracy with a capital duh.
Yeah, just amazing. It's so funny. So funny.
And in this democracy, the majority has spoken, and they said they don't care that much about democracy.
I'm going to beat this into the ground. I'm just going to keep beating this horse. I don't care how dead it is. If democracy allows you to vote to end democracy, then why is it so valuable? No, I know. We've already talked about this. You've already mentioned it. We both said this 1,000 times. I know democracy is just a shibboleth for the world they like. It's just the institutions they control. When they say our democracy, they mean the managed democracy, the one that is completely and entirely captured by your institutions. The minute that voting actually impacts power, now democracy is terrible. But just the constant refrain of democracy is fragile, democracy has to be defended, democracy is on the ballot, it's the end of democracy. And now they're like, okay, no, people definitely voted to end democracy, but we're going to have a peaceful transfer of power. So again, you're just a coward. You are just the least virtuous person to ever exist. If you really believe this, if you really believe that Donald Trump has ended democracy and the people have voted to end democracy, and you think that's just like a thing people can do all the time in democracies, which would make it the worst system of government to ever exist. But if you actually believe any of that, how can you boast about, oh, we're the ones that have a peaceful transition of power? To who? To Orange Hitler? Like, it just, I know, again, it's obvious like that the contradictions just don't matter, but it still just continues to blow my mind.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think that, within all of this, right, it's just incredibly frustrating to listen to someone talk about how it was, such a complete and total shock. Like they can't comprehend a world in which not only Trump wins again, because surely, right, Trump is the signifier of all of these bad things. And then for him to win the election, not just by the Electoral College, but at the simple majority. Well, he said it, right? Therefore, the majority of this country is bad, evil people, right? It is pure resentment, right? He hates normal Americans. And we knew that was true before he said it. But there's something nice about someone just coming out and very clearly saying, I only like democracy when it gives me what I want, and I hate anyone who disagrees with me, even if it's just one election. Right? Like, don't let them trick you into thinking they're humanitarians. They're not. They're spiteful mutants.
Now, there's been two approaches to this, as we've already pointed out. The first one has been just the don't back down, continue to try to rile things up, but I really don't think that they have the energy to do it. Here's the ACLU deputy director calling for people to be in the streets.
One of the reasons why I want to stress to people, we need you in the streets, because the courts will not always do everything for us.
But is there more public...
So if we can't get the courts done to block, if the courts won't block Donald Trump for us, we want you in the streets. You have to be out in the streets ready to go. So this idea that there's going to be this kind of mass resistance to Trump yet again, but it just feels like this time around they don't have the momentum they really need. It feels, I'll be honest, without the narrative of 1 million black men are dying to police every day and kind of unleashing BLM in some of those neighborhoods and those kind of things. It feels like they just don't have the muscle. They just don't have the momentum to try to make this happen again.
Well, definitely. And I think that, there were a lot of predictions of, an epic scale riot, right? Like it would be nothing like we've ever seen before. And that has not materialized yet. I mean, it could happen, I guess, and it is mathematically possible for it to happen. But the same force, right, that is robbing, the secular talk guy of his ability to garner, free money off the internet, right, is the same force that makes it impossible for them to, get people out in the street. And that's basically enthusiasm, right? No one buys this, at least in the way they used to. It feels like a real crushing defeat. And so I do think that there's going to be sort of a rebuilding of the Democratic Party, because they have power, right? They still control these institutions. And obviously you need to win at least some elections to have as much power as they'd like. What form that takes, I don't know. But in the current form, it's a broken political formula, right? It does not motivate people, and they need to motivate people. So, as far as this idea of, fight, get out in the streets, I think we're unlikely to see that for the near future. That doesn't mean it won't come back when they find something new to be mad about. But, the sort of circumstances that led to 2020 are absent, right? And the feeling on the ground is also absent. And so I think, if anything, this transfer will be a whimper, not a bang.
Yeah, interestingly, we see someone like Jonathan Greenblatt of the very despicable ADL. And what's he doing? He's immediately kissing Trump's ass, right? Like, congratulations, President Trump. Look forward to working with you. We've been close partners for so long. Again, a man who has attempted to get every person right of, Chairman Mao canceled, fired, thrown in jail, demonetized, debanked. A guy who has created a database criminalizing everyone, including me and probably you. I'm not sure, but this is a vile human being who is against free speech, against the United States, speaks for the interests of a political movement that does not have America's interests at heart, and yet oh, Donald Trump. Yeah, no, we love you now. Yeah, we've been calling you Orange Hitler for this whole time. We've been trying to cancel and imprison and impoverish every one of your supporters, make them entirely untouchable. But by the way, we really need you to work on anti-Semitism. We want to be partners about this. Just absolutely incredible shamelessness and just vile cowardice from somebody like Greenblatt.
I have nothing to add.
Fair enough. And then this might be my favorite post of the last few days here from to give credit here to Gaze Windward. You can't see the original post here because they locked the account. But basically, oh, here it is. Actually, someone posted it below, so that's great here. Deb here says, how can the total number of votes be less this year than they were in 2020 after we had the biggest turnout ever before? I demand a recount investigation. So this is a great moment for the libs because they were all chin stroking like, oh, all these amazing votes we had turn out for this year and only this year, or 2020 suddenly disappeared. That there must be some kind of inconsistency. Well, yes.
What could it possibly be? Right? Like, and I'm sure you've seen the same graph we all have, yes, right? Tracking the number of votes by year. And to put it mildly, there is some anomalous data on that graph. And I think that, what we're seeing will likely recontextualize the conversation about that election, right? I think if Kamala had won, if she was the person who won the Electoral College by this, commanding lead, then I think the narrative going forward would be Trump was a flash in the pan. The voters decisively rejected him. All these claims of fraud are simply sour grapes. But the fact that the only way Trump lost is in a, shall we say, non-standard election, right? There's a lot going on there. And then again, right, the moment that the voters have a chance to ask for him back, they do so indecisively. And so even if, the narrative is never, shall we say, explicitly corrected on the finer intricacies of 2020. And I'm being wordy for a very good reason here. I'm trying not to say certain words. I think that the popular consensus will be that may not have been fully legitimate.
And, the votes in California and some other places are still being tabulated. That gap will shrink. It probably won't be like 20,000 votes at the end of this. But ultimately, it is certainly dynamic. It's impossible to not notice this. And the fact that the left is noticing the same data, but because they're, just insanely biased, they can't think of what other explanation could have come from this. Like, oh, we must be being cheated this time because 20,000 people who showed up last time didn't show up. Yeah, that's an amazing conclusion. But anyway, this is his response to that post, which I thought was amazing. It's like, well, I suppose you could try to make a case in court, but since the states haven't certified their election, it might be difficult to establish standing. And the certification you might have standing, but unfortunately, a court can't overrule an act of the legislature. You could potentially try to gather a slate of alternative electors, but the Congress is under no obligation to accept them. At that point, you probably have to appeal to the Supreme Court, but that's tough since you don't want to be in the business. They don't want to be in the business of deciding elections. Then all that's really left is a good old-fashioned right of assembly for redress of grievances, i.e., a march. January 6th is when the VP certifies the election officially, and that's probably the best time you'll want to aim for to achieve maximum public impact. Good luck. So just laying out like, oh, you think there was some kind of inconsistency in the election? Oh, well, here's a list of things that we tried last time, but enjoy that.
Yet again, I have nothing to add.
Right. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. There's plenty of questions from the audience, so we'll move over to the questions of the people. But before we do, Mr. Burden, where can people find your excellent work?
Sure. So my primary output is the Jay Burden Show, which is a week interview show that I post twice a week. You can find the Jay Burden Show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And again, Auron, thank you so much for inviting me on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, man. Let's see here. We'll go to the questions of the people. Robert Weinsfeld says, this Jewish Nazi is doing victory laps around the Whole Foods in the S-Lib New York wearing my Trump 24 hat. I'm ear to ear. The employees are very nice, but if you would believe it, the patrons are scoffing at me. Enjoy your victory, sir. Best of luck.
Yeah, there's just something so fun about it, right? Even if you're nothing but nice, right? You're the nicest customer they interact with all day. The just spark of the little glint of glee in your eye in the MAGA hat. It's a beautiful sight to see.
Andrew Guller says, do we know how much the Amish and American expats contributed to Trump's election? Yeah, there's very interesting dynamic. Elon and others talking about the importance of turning out the Amish vote, obviously Pennsylvania going for Trump. You wanted to talk a little bit about that. We didn't get to the whole topic, but do you want to squeeze any of that in now?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, it's probably too late in the episode to start rattling off numbers, but the answer is it was extremely impactful. Obviously, the Amish have not been a force in politics much at all for a very long time. One of the big motivators behind this was effectively the fact that the FDA has been targeting them hard for traditional farming practices. And so when you combine that with obviously their strong social conservatism, effectively the Republicans created a new voter base, right? Now, admittedly, it's concentrated in one area, but that happens to be a very important area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if the Republican Party wants to keep this, well, to be honest, they better make the changes that the Amish want, because I have a feeling if you haven't voted in an election and the entire time we've been having elections, you do it once and you don't get what you want, we're unlikely to see that again. But anyway, that's
Right.
enough on that angle.
Nope, I think that's exactly right. You better deliver if you want to keep that block. Let's make that patronage real. Perspicacious Heretic says Republicans use mirror move. It is super effective. Yes, the old Uno reverse card, as it were. Creeper Weirdo says it wasn't even close. Nope. Complete Trump victory, total blowout. Let's see here. Perspicacious Heretic says maybe they don't hate the Austrian painters as much as we thought. Yeah, I mean, again, like, Trump's Hitler, Trump's Hitler. He's going to be in power now. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll go watch Netflix. Not a big deal.
Well,
Okay.
Auron, I don't know what you're implying. I assumed this super chat was about Julius Victor Berger, who's a very famous Austrian painter.
Yes. Good point. I could have mixed that up. That could have been his reference there. But just appreciating that kind of artwork may be his point. We got another. Trump must use Uno reverse and stack the draw fours. Yep. Let's see here. Tiny Rick says the woke isn't being put away, it's being defeated. Yeah, I don't want to get too into this. I might actually have AA on for a stream so we can like kind of clarify stuff, because at this point the bet has gone on so long and the kayfabe has gone on so long that it's hard to know what is part of the jokes and what is part of the rhetoric and what is part of the actual predictions. But you know, the problem I have is the way the AA has this modeled. Any victory is actually evidence that that's all what power wanted. So power can never lose, power can never make mistakes, power is always correct. And so if Trump wins, or if some aspect of power that AA didn't like gets defeated, well, actually, that was ultimately power's point all along. And so I don't think the woke is even completely defeated. A lot of people, I was on the Blaze panel and people were celebrating, oh, this is the end of identity politics, it's the end of wokeness. I was like, whoa, no, it's not, guys. Like, let's get serious. This might call into question. Some people might hesitate to use it. We might see a few people step away, a few people trying to correct. But as we've already seen, the message from part of the Democratic Party has been, shut up, sit down, stay the course. We weren't wrong. It's just the country that's fascist, right? And eventually, if they want a political survival, they'll have to change that. But that is not the woke being put away intentionally by the actual powers that be. That is a defeat, as you put. And if you create a scenario where power is omnipotent and is omniscient and it is constantly in control and can never fail, then what you're saying is there's just no defeating it, right? And that, I don't think that's right. Like, I just don't think that makes any sense.
Well, at a certain point, it's unfalsifiable, right?
That's my other problem, right? Is everything actually goes back and proves my point, because if I lose, then it was actually power wanting it. And if I win, well, power is all powerful. So, there's no way you can falsify my premise, because every event that happens is going to fit back into, my constantly shifting matrix for what I think power wants. Creeper Weirdo says the projection is insane. Absolutely. Quartzy ZZ7 says, please bring me the right our enemies think we are. Yeah, again, please give me the Trump that the left actually fears. Let's see here. The girly says, yes, the libs are perpetually underdogs and always struggle. It's effing unreal what blinders they've been wearing for years and keep wearing. Yeah, and again, the way that they do this is guys like Pacman will say, well, I'm not part of the establishment. I'm struggling. Same thing that like the Young Turks do. I'm not part of the establishment. So yeah, maybe the establishment left has control of, I don't know, a university somewhere. But overall, I'm still fighting power, even though I agree with like 90% of what these people say. I just want like slightly higher taxes and some healthcare. Like that's how they cope with this. That's how they tell themselves they're not actually in line with BlackRock and Raytheon, even though they absolutely are. Creepy Weirdo says, see, this is why AA, intelligent as he is wrong. They can't help themselves. They aren't Machiavellian. Well, again, some of them are, right? Like the problem is always monocausal analysis, like monofactor analysis, and like just painting the whole thing with a broad brush. Now, AA has adjusted to say, well, there's the different factions inside. And so this is maybe a result of these different factions warring. It's like, okay, well, what do you call it when one faction of the elite defeats the other faction of the elite and gets rid of all of their policies, right? It's called a rotation of elites. That's what we've talked about so many times. But it seems like, well, no, that's what power wanted. Well, if the people in power lost and new power comes in, like, yes, they are now the power, but it's not the same thing. It's a losing and manufacturing a situation in which you transition things is not the same. Like you can't make, again, it just becomes unfalsifiable. Let's see here. Robert Weinsfield says, a hot take, keep KJP the press secretary mockery master.
That would actually be, that's hilarious.
Like that's her punishment, is like that that's her crystal, right? Is she has to be stuck like giving the Trump press briefing.
The monkey's paw. You get to keep your job.
Right.
But actually, Robert, this is a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, actually,
best idea I've heard all day.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind this. I completely support this. Creepy Weirdo says, our democracy means our power. So we did in fact destroy their democracy. Look at me now. It's my democracy now. Yep, absolutely. Perspicacious heretic. Half of what Kimmel mentioned exists out of the U.S. Because of the U.S. is causing. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, but yeah, a lot of what Kimmel is talking about is just stuff that the left is like actively doing now, but he just didn't want it done to him. And Michael Robertson says, maybe the real democracy was the friends we made along the way. Oh, but I like my friends and I don't like democracy, so that's a real problem for me there. Oh, we got one more here. Jeff said, Million Frog March for the inauguration. Yeah, I got a feeling you're going to see quite the crowd for inauguration for Trump, for sure. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been so great talking to you. If it's your first time here, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Make sure that you turn on the notifications and the bell so that you know when these streams go live. If you have not followed Jay Burden on YouTube and Twitter and all the other places you should, make sure that you do that. If you'd like to get these broadcasts as podcasts, you need to subscribe to the Auron MacIntyre Show on your favorite podcast platform. And when you do, leave a rating or review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And as always, I'll talk to you next time.